Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
I'm Deirdre Hade, and I am a mystic, a poet, a guide, and an author of the voices of angelic presence, God, the nature beings, all that is, that are longing to be present in our lives fully in union with the human family. And to clarify what a mystic is, since they have gone back 2,000, 5,000, 20,000 years. A mystic is someone who is a doorway, a gatekeeper, fully grounded, living fully in the worlds of light with beings of light, fully conscious of that world at all times, and at the same time fully grounded and anchored in this reality, the nuts and bolts of this world. The mystic carries light between the two worlds, knowledge, wisdom, love, and is dedicated to that service for humanity.
Thank you very, very much for allowing me to interview yourself.
Oh,
I appreciate that so much. I think the first time we spoke, it was the Not So Little Book of Surprises.
Exactly.
And that was just released?
It was released last year. We did a soft launch, and then we've just been selling it for the whole year and sold it for Christmas and the holidays. And
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I never thought back in when I was interviewing you over Skype that we'd be in person. And it's amazing just how the universe brings things together.
Well, especially right now, because right now the great choreographer has set everything up so that now we're all going to be converging, finding each other on planes we didn't know we'd be on, in places we didn't know we would be, finding each other, because it's, as I say in the Not So Little Book of Surprises,
yes.
It's time to gather. It's time to find one another, because when we come together we create a synergy of light that is part of the great work to heal our planet.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. So what I want to do here, just to begin with, is go way back, and let's just go, because I want to go through the whole gamut of how we've got to this point right now, right? And I know we've only got a set amount of time to do that. So in your childhood then, were there any gifts or special abilities that you think now looking back that you had, that you were maybe not so aware of at the time?
Oh yes. Matter of fact, I'm writing my memoir about this. I was born the way I am, and my first vision was at 3, where my grandfather, there was a pine tree, showed me a tent where my brother was sleeping. We were camping, a truck running over the tent. So I ran in the tent, I grabbed my brother, ran out, and then a pickup truck ran over the tent. And my parents, of course, thought my brother was dead, and then discovered us once the dust settled. So that was the first time that I had a vision. I shared that with my parents later, and they were very loving and really treated me with a lot of kindness. Then, as I got older, I always spoke to the living beings. They were my friends. I didn't ever think that they were different than humans. I saw us all as equals. And then when I was probably 4, we went to Lake Michigan, and that was one of the first oil spills in Lake Michigan. And I believed that Lake Michigan was my mother. I told my mother that I was born from Lake Michigan, and that I was here to bring joy and happiness to the world. And at 4, that was my mission, because I really observed how everyone was miserable. And that's why I'm here. But then at 4, we went to Lake Michigan, and I'll never forget this. It's just as plain as day. There were these signs that said no swimming, and there were dead fish everywhere. And I remember my whole body seizing up. I started writhing on the sand and rolling around in the sand, and my mother and her friends were really worried, and what's wrong, and take her to the emergency room. And I started screaming, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. And I was the lake, and I felt the lake, and I felt her pain that she was dying. And I started sobbing, and I said to my mother, my mother's sick, my mother's sick. Oh, she's dying. And for me, it was as much as if my real mother had died. And I went into this deep grief, very deep grief. I stopped eating. I developed a stomach problem. They had to put me in the hospital for a week. They couldn't find out what was wrong, and it was because I felt the pain of Lake Michigan.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so this has been my life. As I got older, my mother was very understanding. My father was an atheist, a scientist. Both my parents were scientists, actually, at the University of Chicago. And so he just kind of rolled his eyes and was like, I can't even go there. And then at 6, after I'd witnessed some really horrific things, we moved to Durham, North Carolina, and there was this great, prejudice and hate that I'd never known, never seen. And I witnessed some very, very horrible brutality of some, white men with some African-American children. Should have never seen this. And afterwards, I said, I don't want to live here anymore. I came to bring joy and happiness, but I don't think it's possible. So I decided to take my life. And I ate a bottle of aspirin to go home. I left my body. I was whirling around in the light, really happy. And then I heard a voice that said, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, well, what are you talking about? They said, are you sure you want to do this? And I went, do what? I'm just in bliss. And they said, you need to listen to something. And I listened and I listened and I go, who's Deirdre? And they go, that's you. And I go, no, I'm not Deirdre. They said, yes, it's you, listen. And then I listened again and I go, I know that voice. And they go, yes, who's that voice? I go, I don't know. And then I go, oh, that's right. I have a mother on earth. I said, I better go see what she's crying about. And I flew back, and I flew into the hospital room, and I was above the gurney there, and I had all these tubes in me, and my mother was over my body sobbing, and the doctor had his hands in his... And I said, and the voice said, do you want to leave? And I said, no, if I leave, my mother would die, she would never recover. I have to go back. So I jumped back in my body, literally jumped. And I remember hitting my body, and it was painful. It was like hitting concrete. It was like hitting, it was so painful. I opened my eyes. Everyone there in the emergency room started, like, they couldn't believe it. I remember the doctor saying, well, I can't write this down. We can't talk about this. Okay, this was a long time ago. This was, I'll give away my age, but over 40 years ago. And after that, every morning, a group of 12 beings, very, very tall, all white, would speak to me. I would see them with my eye. I would get up in the morning and go out under the mulberry tree and talk to them every morning. And they said to me, thank you for coming back. We know that was a hard decision, but we want you to know that we're always with you. You're never alone. Nothing will ever happen to you. No matter what it looks like, you're protected. And please do your job of bringing joy and happiness to this world. And they began to teach me the knowledge that I've been blessed to have. And they stayed with me until we moved to Memphis. And then I didn't see them anymore with my physical eyes, but I felt them, and they identified themselves as angelic beings, ascended masters. And so that's how I started. Now, I did go into these spontaneous, what you would call channelings, when I was 16, and the different beings would speak. And then at about 25, when I was in the Sierras, an ascended master came to me, Saint Germain, and said, you're here to be a ray or a pure energy, and so we want you to embody who we are, and we're going to train you so that you and us, we're just one. So they said, stop channeling for people, because I was channeling for people. They said, stop, and we'll tell you when to speak again. So 15 years later, one day they said, you're ready now, but now you're going to be fully awake, fully conscious. We're going to actually enter you so that when you are speaking, it's you, because now you're us. We're one. And so then I began to go back and do my work.
Wow. Okay. How did your parents take your transformation after the near-death experience?
Well, my mother, who was very spiritual and just kind of went along with my dad, of course, that's what they did back then, right? She was very, very supportive. My dad, that child has such an overactive imagination, right? And the thing I found about scientists, my father and grandfather being one and growing up in universities, is that scientists, if they don't want to believe something, they forget about it. They just compartmentalize. So my dad, even though he was there when this happened, he just kind of denied that it ever happened because it didn't fit into his paradigm. And I see that a lot with scientists. If something's paranormal or abnormal, they literally just cut it off and say, oh, that didn't really exist. That's, anyway, my experience growing up with scientists.
But did that keep you grounded?
I think it did. I think it did keep me grounded. I'll tell you something else. Because I grew up in a scientific household, because I grew up in laboratories doing theories and writing, I literally, my parents mentored me in the scientific, rigor it takes to prove something, to prove a theory. They spent their life's work, were working with cancer cells because I grew up with that, I got a discipline of rigor and grounding in reality and in truth. And that has served me very well. So I've spent my life studying spirituality, studying other texts by these teachers who presented themselves to me, and then watching to see, is this information accurate? Is this information really what needs to be said? And that has grounded me, and I'm very, very grateful for what my parents gave me, the way to approach things scientifically.
I've seen this with all, I've seen over almost getting on to 30 channelers now. And yes, that's definitely
that's what happens.
Yeah.
Then you get really like, shwing, I'm tired.
And I've seen those channelers that don't look after themselves as well.
Well, we could talk about that.
We will.
What my guys told me, and I love that you are doing this. And one of my teachers for channeling, because I thought, when I was about 27, I said, well, God's working to make me this a presence of these higher frequencies. So I'm going to go ahead, but I'm going to study, because I love that. So I studied with Sean Randall, who channels Torah, way back when. And so I, of course, immediately started channeling, because that's what I do. And people in class were like, whoa, have you done this? But I wanted to learn what Torah had to say. And they said, well, what's the name of your channel? And it came in Atah. I was upset. I said, well, why isn't everybody's name is like, Flying Star and, all these great names. And mine was Atah. And I kept saying, are you sure that it's Atah? And the voice would say, yes, I am Atah. I thought to myself, well, that's so boring, but okay. So then I was like, okay, so Atah's coming through me. And I understood Atah as this collective of these beings. Fast forward, Yeshua appeared to me in physical body one morning in my foot of my bed. And I was a little, of course, freaked out. I was like, whoa, I haven't seen anyone in physical form in a while. And said, know the Torah and you know who I am. Now, it's interesting, it was led to study with Sean, who channeled Torah. Then Jesus shows up and says, know the Torah and you know who I am. And I said, Torah as in the Bible, the Torah? And Jesus said, yes. I said, so you want me to study Torah? And Jesus said, know the Torah and you know who I am. I said, yes, you're to study Torah. So Jesus appeared to me. I call him Yeshua because that's his real name. 2 more times after that. My husband came home fairly soon after this experience and looked at me and said, hey, I think I found this rabbi that you should meet, and he teaches at a church. So I went and I began to study Torah. And as I was studying Torah, I studied Hebrew. And there we have it, as I'm studying the prayer, Atah. So Atah means God. That's a word for the name. One of the names of God is Atah. And I put it together. So I said, Atah. And they said yes. So take that for whatever, and anyone would want to take it. But I do feel that I'm blessed to have this connection with a presence of God, and share that with people.
Absolutely. Now, okay, so and just going back to that backstory as well. So there must have been so much info. Were there times when you was with that collective group when you were just in the early stages, where you were just were just asking questions from your heart of what of the nature of this reality and stuff, or was there any? What was the conversations like, just very briefly, in those early days with the group that you had?
Well, when I was very little, because they started coming, as I said, after I'd taken the aspirin had effectively died and came back.
So this was quite, yeah, so that group was with you from to what
yes,
age?
from I just turned 7 until I was 10.
Okay, well, you're not going to be asking those kind of deep questions.
No, I was just laughing because they were like, the stuff that I remembered was very kind of remedial. But I do remember from them that we were conversing in a language other than English, and I understood the language, but it wasn't in the mental mind. It was all in the feeling, emotional. It was a whole different kind of communication. But later on, yes, I always ask questions, look for guidance, and have been fortunate to receive volumes of information. See those? There's some of them right there. There's all those books. Those are some of the volumes. So I've got probably twice that much. So I have volumes of information that they gave me. But what they say, the most important thing, more important than anything, is that we understand that we are a pure frequency of love, that we are pure creation, we are an essence of being that is love. And we're here to return into that state of unity and connection to everything, so that we can live a joyous and happy life.
So what age did you start doing channelings, as in readings for people, sessions for people?
Okay, so I started channeling when I was 20.
Quite young to be doing that work, yeah.
Well, I started really kind of going into those trance states with other people when I was about 14, 15, 16. But people didn't know what to do with it. I didn't even know what it was. But then I started channeling for other people when I was 20. And I did this through my 20s until about 7 or 8 years later, I was told to stop and to not speak publicly or with anyone until they told me I could.
Okay, so that's a lot of trust to listen to them, to stop channeling. That must have been a lot of trust just to go with that, especially for so many years as well.
I know, that's what I said.
What was you doing in between those years then?
Well, let's see. I had a career as a dancer and a choreographer, and I formed a dance program for inner city youth in Memphis. I toured around the South as a dancer. I had a company called Celebrations, and we did dance to sacred music. Then I became an actress, and I acted in plays. I wrote plays, directed plays. Then I got married, and then I had my daughter. I had a baby. Then when I had my baby, I still, they said, no, you're not to come in the world yet. And then when it took a long time, but then I did. I would literally one day, just out of the blue, they'd go, okay, you're ready. And I went back.
So you was keeping, you were back in this reality, doing the passions that you'd love to do. Mm-hmm. And was there any development in that spiritual side of you?
Oh, absolutely. That was the main thing I was doing, but that's what I did in the world. So everything I did was about the spirit. When I danced, the energies would come in, and I was very aware that the energies were healing, creating a healing vortex for the audience. I was very aware of the power of dance and channeling a presence through dance that uplifts people and guides people. And so, that's what they told me to do. They said, don't speak yet, but dance us, bring us and dance. So I did that.
Were you studying any kind of texts at the time, any sort of books that were kind of resonate with you at the time?
Yes, I've always studied. So my first in-depth study was A Course in Miracles. My mother's, a friend was driving through town. I was about 15, and they had a Xerox copy. And they said, oh, I have the Xerox copy, it's about to be published. And he left it on our piano. He forgot it. So I found it on the piano one morning, A Course in Miracles. And I go, what's that? My mom said, oh, so-and-so, they left it. And they're on their way to California. So I said, well, I'm going to read it. So I started studying A Course in Miracles from that Xerox copy. I studied A Course in Miracles in depth every day for probably 2 hours in the morning for the next almost 20 years. Then I studied, my mother studied the Tibetan Book of the Dead. We did that together. Then along the way I studied the I Am material, the I Am presence. I was, again, magically, I live a really magical life. I just have to say I'm so grateful because I can't say I orchestrated any of it. Things just show up. Like, then when I was about 23, 24, I worked at a construction job. And the secretary there said, oh, I have someone I think you're supposed to meet. Can you come with me on Saturday? And I went, yes. And I went to a little bungalow house in Memphis. She opened the door, and there were these 4 little ladies in their 90s, and the whole house was painted purple. And there was an old phonograph record with this, like these angelic sounds coming out. I walked in, and they were so cute, these little old ladies had their arms out, and they go, oh, we've been waiting for you. And they were some of the original members of the I Am Presence group with Godfrey Ray King. They were with him as young women and lived and knew him, and they had his original channelings on these records. And she said, we've been waiting for you. They told us you were coming, and we need to pass this on because, they were old, there were no more followers. And so I began to study all of the I Am material and do the decrees on Saturdays with them. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years until I went back to New York to act. I got cast in a play. But they wrote me all the time. They gave me original decree books from 1930s. Mm-hmm. I studied all of those works. Then I studied the New Testament. I studied Zen, all of Alan Watts's work. I had a guru for 12 years, so spent a lot of time in India. And then the last piece of my study was the Torah, mystical Torah and the Kabbalah. And I'll probably be studying that till the day I die because that's a lot.
Okay, so then, as you say, got married, had kids, married to a scientist?
No, he came from a family of mathematicians, but he actually worked in the film industry, and he's a director and producer. So. And
is that William?
No, this was the father of my kids.
Right. Okay.
Will and I've been together 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, at what point then in that marriage or between Will did the group come back to you then?
Well, they always spoke to me. They just said I wasn't allowed to work with anybody. That they were working on what they explained, they were working on my physiology, and they were building my tree of life. So when I began to study Torah, I started to receive all this information about the tree of life. And they said, we just need for you to receive this information and let us work on you, and then we will tell you when it's time to speak. So I studied all of that all the time, and I had conversations, and nothing had changed other than I wasn't saying, I'm a channel, come see me and I'll channel something for you. But it was an extraordinary time because I had my children. I love my children. They're magical, crystal, dolphin beings. Loved having a family, loved being a mom. But I lived in the spirit. I every day would spend hours and hours and hours studying. Even when my kids were little, I would say, well, Mommy has to meditate now. So that's just the way we live here. And so I'd shut the door and I'd meditate for 3 or 4 hours, and I had their toys out. And I said, as long as you are quiet, you can play here and be with mommy, but if you get loud, you'll have to go with a babysitter. They really wanted to be with me. So I trained them to stay with me when I would go into these trances, these deep, I can't even call it meditation, really, just go out. And they were so cute because they would always end up in my lap, completely out too. So I tell mothers, you can do this and still have children. You just have to let them know what the rules are, and they'll roll.
And that's a beautiful story you've just shared there, because that could help so many mums who are really into this subject,
yes,
and just feel that they're powerless when the children come along, because their life becomes the children's, which it does do, right? But that's not to say you can't do this work in balance as well.
Absolutely. You can be a mother and do this work side by side very easily. You just have to remember a few things. One, your children are your guru, and they will press you in every point you have to make you uncomfortable and react. So you just use that for your awakening, to soften those buttons and to cultivate patience, compassion, and understanding, as well as cultivating the proper way to rebuke, set boundaries, and have rules. It's very important to have that with children, to love them compassionately and to have rules. So you can say to your children, Mother has her spiritual time, and we must honor it here. And when Mother doesn't have her spiritual time, that's when Mother becomes angry. And trust me, kids don't want Mom angry, and so they will support you in doing what it takes so that you don't have to get so frazzled. You can do that. I did that with my children, and it's really very, very doable. You just be honest with them. I need my spiritual time. I need to commune with God, with the presence, and I need you to honor that. And while I do that, you can join me if you want, but you just have to be quiet.
Absolutely. And for the dads as well.
And the dads too, right?
Yeah. So then at what point then did you're doing all this wonderful meditation, and it's how is that transforming you to to make the channeling better? Is it allowing you to become a clearer vessel in a sense?
What I understood from Atah, or from God, was that they were filling me with a knowledge. And they did not want me to begin to teach the knowledge or bring it until I had been fully formed and a vessel to carry their frequency. And that's why they said to wait. They also had said that the frequency I was to bring, the planet was not ready yet. And they said, we don't want you bringing this in when it's you're pouring water through a bucket that has holes in the bottom. That'll just be a waste of energy. So they said, we want you to start to bring the frequency and bring it into the world when the world will be able to receive it. And so that was the other reason they asked me to wait.
That's interesting. Very interesting. So then let's get to the point, let's get to that time then when they're coming in now. And now, what did you do with the work when they opened that door for you, when you walked through the door, for example?
So what happened is, and I'll just do a brief next story, I got a divorce. My husband met someone and left. So now I'm a single mom with 2 kids. Life got really very difficult. It was a very, very difficult time. The California state, the judge and the divorce court decided to remove my support. So I had no way to support myself and the kids. So I was pretty much in panic. While that was happening, interestingly enough, while I was going through all that, I was praying very, very hard because life was dangerous. We'd moved into a small apartment. My kids put a duct tape down the middle of the room. My son and my daughter, don't cross that line. We had a little tiny apartment. And I had to feed them fast food. I've never done that my whole life. But, when you have $20 for dinner, you eat fast food. So it was a very different life for us. And I prayed. I found in my Bible a Psalm 91, which is, whoever seeks refuge in the Most High will be placed under the protective shade of the Almighty and will be lifted on the pinion of angels above the ensnaring trap. So my rabbi said in passing one time, there's this old myth. The rabbi said, the mystic said, if you said a psalm 1,000 times, you become enlightened. And since I really wanted to be fully enlightened, I decided to say the psalm 1,000 times. So that's what I did. And I said it over and over and over. And one night, a great light appeared in my room. It was like a saucer and hovered above me. And I started shaking. It was very, very intense. And it didn't leave, and I was wide awake, and this light came for over a month every night. I went to a psychiatrist. I said, something I think is wrong, and they said, well, you sound very normal, take some sleeping pills. I took every sleeping pill there is, nothing put me to sleep. Every night this saucer would come right above me, and I'd start shaking. And then one night, I felt myself, at least that was my experience, that I lifted off the bed and went into this saucer of light. And when I did that, I felt myself completely dissolve, and I just didn't exist anymore. And then I felt this connection and this oneness with all of creation and this enormous love. And then the sun came up, and then I was standing up. I don't even know how I was standing up. I was standing up. And I had no thoughts. It was in just a pure state of non-thought. And I then had one thought. The first thought that came in, because it was in this great love, was, okay, what do I do? I'm standing by a window now, what do I do? God said, pick up your left foot, put it down in front of you. Pick up your right foot, put it down in front of you. Walk. So I walked, and my kids came out. I said, I was like blank. My kids are like, are you okay? And I go, well, something happened in my meditation. I went into a light, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And my son says, well, you're supposed to make us breakfast. And I went, what do you usually have? And he said, oatmeal. He takes my hand. My daughter said, well, you're going to have to drive us to school. And I went, oh no. And they were really, really sweet. So they really helped me. And then I did. I drove them to school. I came back, but I was in this very, very in love, but so uncomfortable because I really, I couldn't find words. I couldn't find thoughts. So I came back. God said, Atah said, you're done. Congratulations, all your work, your life's work. You're now embodied with us. We need you to ground this energy now. And so I said, what do I do with it? And he said, clean your apartment. Wash the dishes, get on the floor, scrub the floor. Keep moving your body and doing very, very simple, simple tasks. So I did that. I cleaned. And then right after that, I lost all my support for my kids. And I was standing, looking out on the street, going, wow, I could be on the street in 2 weeks. I could be, I see how people could become homeless. I said to God, well, what do I do? I'm going to need to pay the rent. And is an actress, a dancer. It's not like a skill you can just jump back into. And God said, well, it's time for you to do your work. I said, well, what's my work? God said, well, it's time for you to heal people. It's time for you to start to heal. It's time for you to speak. And that's when I started.
And then what did you actually start at that point then? What was that work?
Well, so I said to God, heal people. Okay, like what do I do? God said, you don't have to do anything, I'm doing it. I said, well, how am I going to get people to come? God said, well, I'll send you people. So I said, well, what do you want me to do? Like make a flyer, put an angel on it? God said, that's a great idea. So that's what I did. I made a flyer, I put an angel on it, and I discreetly gave it to everyone I knew. Everybody who got one said, I didn't know you were a healer. I said, well, it's a long story. But the long and short of it is I miraculously got this beautiful mahogany-lined office in Beverly Hills that someone, oh, you can use that office for free. I had people from morning to night, and then that it just took off. People just started showing up. And when people came, I remember the first session, the first client, I was about to go to the office. I went in a panic because I said, oh my gosh, I forgot to God, what am I doing a healing? What do I do? And God said, well, we were wondering, when you would ask. So God said, bring your crystal bowl, bring your tuning forks, bring these crystals, bring these essences you got in France, so the Ascended Master, just collected stuff that I had on my altar. I went to the session right before the First Lady shows up. I'm like, now what do I do? God said, surrender. Because now we, meaning you, Deirdre, and I, now we are going to do the work. You don't have to do anything. And I did. She came in and I sat down and the first words out of my mouth were, tell me what hurts. Tell me what's happening. And the person told me, and then I just could see everything. I was like, oh, this is you. I could see the past lives, the future. I said, okay, we're going to clear this karma. I could just see her. I just knew it. Then I laid her on the table, put my hands over her. This energy came in, and I just did the work and brought in her guides and did a healing. And afterwards, she was like, whoa, I don't know what that was, but I feel 1,000 pounds lighter. I feel like a new person. I can think clearer. And then people just started showing up. People started coming from around the world, and it just happened.
And how many years were you doing that work for?
I was doing that work for now probably 12 years.
And are you still doing that work?
So what happened then is now I moved, got a bigger place, everything's good, doing my sessions from morning to night, and giving people this knowledge that I quote channeling, this knowledge coming in, as well as doing the work of clearing the soul so people can be free and the healing. And then I got a little disappointed because I'd do a healing and then a few months later people would come back and they'd be back in the same place again. So I said to God, okay, we did this work and now people go right back. God said, well, that's because people go back after healing, after they've been cleared by the light, to their familiar surroundings, and the patterns get reignited. So they still had a healing, but they can't experience their own healing. They go back into the patterns of other people. And God said, really, the only way to keep that from happening is if you've got to teach people how to not let that happen. So there needs to be some study. So then I said, okay, well, now whoever comes, you're going to have to study with me, because I don't want to see you in 3 months after you've been healed. I want you to be able to sustain this. So I started to teach and to bring the knowledge and the information that I had through. And then that grew and that grew. And then I had retreats and it just, it all flowered very naturally, very effortlessly. That's how I met my husband, Will Arntz. He came to my retreats, and it's been a real magical journey. I'm not doing the one-on-one work like that. I was told after about 7 years of doing that, God said, okay, you've done that. We're worried about your body. He said, we're worried about your body. You need to rest. And we want you now to do this work with groups of people. And so then you've got like a week off, you can regenerate yourself in between. Because I was working round the clock. So then I just kind of changed how I do the work.
And that's amazing, isn't it? All the people that were brought to you, in a sense, it's almost like you didn't have to advertise to begin with.
No, I never advertised.
Right, they just came to you. Mm-hmm. And that voice of God that's coming through, was those deep sessions that you had with that voice privately as well?
Yes, so every person, that's the presence that comes through. And I wish that I record a lot of those sessions. There was so much knowledge, but then eventually we started recording them, and people were always very generous and saying, yes, you can, use that piece, because so much information would come through. And now I work with groups of people, and we just did a Facebook Live. I've been doing healings just to really reach people, so everyone can have that experience.
Even healing to groups?
Yes, so now I work with groups. I do healings with groups.
How does that work, in the sense that, everyone wants their piece, don't they? Well, they feel that they do. But then how are you healing an entire group? And are they karmically coming to you with some of the same deeper issues?
Well, God is so magnificent and multidimensional that when I open the gates of the energy, the presence knows exactly how to work with every person. The presence can work, on thousands of people at the same time, because it's not just me, Deirdre, the little person. What I understand from the Tree of Life, from the knowledge that I've been shared, is that the Tree of Life is the essential array or form of energies, of frequencies of light entering our world. And so I was shown how to open the Godhead, or the crown of the Tree of Life, and at the feet the Malchut, the Shekinah of the Tree of Life, so that everyone in a room can have that private one-on-one time with God and a healing experience.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. And again, this work's provided for you because there's many people in this field where they find it difficult sometimes to. I've seen all sorts. I've seen the whole gamut, and there must be some karmic reasons why some people find it difficult to make this their full-time income sometimes, or.
Yes, I've worked with, there's a lot of people who are beautiful servants of light. I come the chorus of angels that are here doing such good work. And, everyone has a different place, a different lesson. There really shouldn't be a qualifying factor of of money with that. Every soul has something else to learn. I'm just very, very blessed that I was able to do quite well financially with my work.
But then do you think the business side has grounded you, to keep you grounded, to keep you here? Because some of the people in this work could be very much into the other dimension and not enough of taking care of themselves, or grounding themselves with the business side, or just being
exactly.
present.
So that's why I present myself as a mystic instead of a channeler. Because when one channels, one has a great gift, one is dealing with another world of energy, and you're very, very susceptible to not being grounded. What God needs from all of us who have gifts is to anchor and ground the light in this reality. So that means being completely balanced in the two worlds, being balanced in the world of light and of the masters, and just as grounded in paying rent, paying bills, keeping a business, having vessel. This is the way it was shown to me. The energies of light are all potential, all possibility. The worlds of light where these beings live, that people channel, Saint Germain, Yeshua, the angels.
Higher self.
Yes, higher self. This is a different kind of frequency of the mind. And in those worlds, we operate and live very differently because we don't have a body. They don't necessarily always translate into the nuts and bolts of this world. And that's what the problem is. Because God needs for this light to be translated into the nuts and bolts of this reality. And so it's very hard, as someone who can reach these heights, I know I'm one of them, it's very hard to then get grounded in this world. And it's also not so fun. This world is painful, you're not in bliss, you have to deal with mundane, it gets boring. But we really need to. And what I was shown is that this world, which is the construct of time and space is a mathematical, energetic equation that creates the architecture for the mind of God, or the architecture for this reality to be a temple to hold the body of God. And so it's essential that we are very grounded in the architecture, because then the light of God can infuse that architecture and actually work to change the consciousness of architecture. So everything that is a business, mundane, your house, your order of your life, that's architecture, and we must put attention to that.
And it's not the absence of anything, isn't it, to walk around in white robes and be chanting all the time, do you know what I mean? Or be in avoidance of whatever we might try to be avoiding.
If what I've found in my lifetime of this work and being exposed to it, if it gets too far off into the spiritual realms without grounding, what happens to the energy is it begins to twist. It begins to torque. Because you cannot have pure energy of the highest frequency without the architecture, without a vessel to hold it. It begins to turn into like a cyclone. And that's when sometimes the information can start to go cloudy and not be pure anymore.
Yeah, well, you look at some of the channelers like Jane Roberts, for example.
Right.
Yeah, she was more in the other dimension in the end than she was here. You know, not looking after herself, chain smoking all the time.
Yep.
No, I'm not saying these are wrong or right. I'm just saying the side effects of not being so grounded. Yeah, and then Edgar Cayce, a full-time smoker. Yeah, and he was told, you know, stop this, slow it down, otherwise we're not going to be here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We coming here is just so important, to be here, have this human experience.
Yes, it is very, very important. And when one is working with these higher frequencies and channeling these higher frequencies, it does create a great stress on the body and the consciousness, because these worlds are so different. Many times people who channel smoke or have something so that they will ground. What I'm saying is there are techniques, there are ways to anchor yourself so you can be grounded without smoking or without having to use a substance. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I do.
Absolutely, you do. Absolutely. You know, hats off to you for what you've done and all the people that you've helped as well. You must have had some very interesting past lives.
I've had, yes. I haven't been in this world for very many lives, but for the lives I have been here, I know who I was. As
you've done all these readings and as you continue the work that you're doing, your understanding of the nature of reality must be forever evolving, because the journey that I've taken on with meeting all the wonderful channelers is that there's so much more to the information than what's out there right now. Take the life review as one thing we talk about sometimes, right? There's even so much more to that. You know, we've brought out the grain of sand on a beach of and this people could dive so much deeper into what this is. There is a ton of information there's a seismic amount of information that's not come through yet.
Absolutely, and it will come, and it will come when we are ready for it, because too much knowledge is a dangerous thing, and too much knowledge too soon is a dangerous thing. So it's important to have a root. The work that I do, and when I would say I'm going to work with you, or I'm going to do a workshop, the place that I always start is at the root, the base of the tree of life, and that is the foundation of ethics, virtue, and responsibility. And when you have a code of virtue and ethics that are aligned with all that is, and you have a foundation, that root will ground you to be able to hold these high frequencies. Because sometimes when these high frequencies come in, it is intense. We all love the bliss. We all want to get in that field of the person that can carry the bliss and open the bliss. But ultimately, we're not here to experience bliss. Bliss is a byproduct of a higher frequency, but we get addicted to it. We're human, so we get addicted to anything that makes us feel good. Hits the pleasure button. But ultimately, that's not what it's about. Ultimately, it's about moving beyond even bliss and being in the all-knowing state, a deep state of resonance and wisdom with all that is. And when that happens, our ability to create, our thoughts, become what I call supercharged thoughts, so that we can really do the work of enlightening the planet, bringing goodness into the world.
Absolutely, but does an enlightened planet, which is coming more into oneness and love, does it look so different to what it is now?
You're saying, will it look different?
Will it look so different?
It will look different. It will look very different, because the veils of separation, the ignorances that keep us in fear and intolerance and harming each other, creating wars, when that's not necessary anymore, then we can be the true creators, coming together to create. And that's when you just said there's so much information, that's what we're talking about here, that there's so much information that could make this world truly heaven on earth. That we could take all of our energy, and instead of finding our differences and warring, you take that same amount of energy and say, how do we create something so that cancer's eradicated? How do we create something so that everyone's soul gets to flourish? That's what it's going to look like.
Now that's a beautiful thing. But I always think to myself, well, yeah, but did the soul want to come here to have the opposites? It wanted the opposites to have this human experience. Could a human experience exist if everything was just so, bliss and oneness? I guess it could from some of the perspectives that you've just mentioned there, absolutely. Because we would be searchers of other things rather than being so opposed. It's a bit like Star Trek, where they've left the idea of wars and have gone for outer exploration and inner exploration as well. That seeking to become something more does never change, I guess. It just becomes more peaceful. Yes,
it becomes more peaceful. And also, I want to back up with about the soul. So the soul is here to evolve. The part of itself of the human mind, the human consciousness. And so the soul comes here to learn. The soul is from the light, of the light, and the soul is in a state of evolution. The soul is in a state of creation in the time-space continuum. The soul is here to learn. The soul is held by consciousness. Consciousness is all that there is. At the same time, consciousness is what guides the soul and says, here, soul, this is experience. Here's this experience, so that you can grow. But when consciousness is asleep or in ignorance, it doesn't know itself, everything that comes in the human world is a lesson, is a teacher for consciousness to wake up. And then the consciousness can be the loving parent that guides the soul.
No, that's so beautiful and so true. I think that's my truth. Your truth is my truth. But what about the souls who never wake up? Are they contracted to never wake up for those that are around to experience that kind of opposite? Are they? Would it have been a benefit for those souls to have woken up rather than they did not?
Well, it's always a benefit to waking up. Every soul, and again, we are multidimensional beings. So we're talking about the soul, and we're talking about consciousness, and then then we have the ego mind, which is psychology, which I didn't mention earlier, but the other thing I did is I spent probably 15 years in deep mentorship with Dr. LaWanda Steinberg, who was the head of the psychology department at the University of Southern California. And she mentored me in psychology. I said to her, I think I need a psychology degree to do healing because it's all so much psychology. And she said, no, don't go back to school. You won't be able to do your work. You won't have time. I'll teach you everything. And she was my mentor and taught me psychology. So I work in that realm too, because we have the ego mind, we have our soul, we have consciousness, and then our higher self, is an umbrella over all that. All three of these aspects need to be awake, healed, and work together.
So you really have done the groundwork here with what you're doing. What do you think of the state of channeling out there right now? If I said to you, I don't know if I've met a bad channeler on this journey yet. Right. I think everyone is channeling information at the level at which the people are going to come to them at.
Well, I was told probably 20 years ago that the time was coming, which is now, where people's souls, their service, their purpose, their gift they would wake up. And that there would be many people who were, quote, able to communicate with the higher frequencies and channel the messages of the divine. And so that's where we are now, and it's all very important, very good, very necessary. And it's comforting for people. If you can go sit with someone and they say, oh, your grandmother's here, and there's an angel with you, and this is what they say. That's comforting for us. That is very healing. So I'm very delighted, very excited that this field of flowers is now starting to bloom with many people bringing the messages of the divine. It's perfect. It's what's supposed to happen.
Being in the TV world and trying to pitch some ideas to networks, they're very much like, blow me away. Give me something that's credible. Let's maybe remove that question. Let's maybe just start, we'll come back to that. Maybe let's say, what is the difference then for you between a medium and a channeler?
Well, I've worked with many mediums. As a mystic, part of what I do is mediumship. Part of what I do is channel, heal. A mystic is fully grounded in the worlds of light and fully grounded in this reality, and creates a bridge. So I've worked with many people who are mediums and many people who channel. The people I know who channel leave, you close down and an energy comes through that's greater than them. And they're very aware that something else comes in. A medium is someone who can hover between these worlds and read signs and read what's happening and share messages from angels or from somewhere else. And not all, mediums and channelers, depending on one's own place and development, will kind of be at a different strata of what and where their information comes from. And I think it's all necessary, it's all needed, because there's many different layers of consciousness that need to be, brought into the open. But I think, does that clarify what?
Yes, that's the way I'm thinking about it as well, because some people are saying to me, this is some people's viewpoint, is that, what they're bringing through is a load of rubbish, they're just speaking from the mind, there's no truth in it.
Now, who says that about who?
I won't name names, but some people who've come across my path have said to me, there's only one particular channel that I only ever really think is good. All the rest are just rubbish.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say to these people, well, hang on, that's their truth that they're bringing through. You can't say that they're faking it or that they're not being truthful to themselves. They're bringing that information through, and it's helping some people. If you believe that you're a soul having a human experience, how can you just cut off someone else's truth just to say they're a fakery and all this? Because none of it really matters in one sense, right? But then to be so judgy sometimes, it's, like some people are, it's, one is right and the other is wrong. It's like, well, what if we're all right? Right, absolutely. Now, let's be real. If somebody's channeling an entity and the entity says, go out and commit mass murder, I would question that channel. But there are many channels with different information. What I would always tell people is, find your posse, or find your teacher, find the person that, this feels right, this feels good. I feel I can learn something here. You also want to make sure that the organization is ethical, that it's really clean, they're running, things clear. If you've got a head person and their organization is not clean, then I would coach someone to say maybe that's not the right place to be, because it's top down, everything's top down. Use your intuition. Use your intuition. How much from love is this message? Right, how much love is this message? And there's many different people, I'll be honest with you, Kevin, I don't make it my business to find channelers, look for channelers, or be a part of different communities. But the ones I've come across and people who, I'll always say, well, gosh, if you're getting something, and then that's wonderful. But getting back to what you were saying before about saying this person's right and everybody else is wrong, let's go to the psychology, right? Let's go to psychology. The human mind, the ego mind, has an automatic switch of protection. And the automatic switch of protection is to deflect and then to project. And so that's what the ego does. And the ego, we all have an ego, whether you are in an ashram or out of an ashram. I've lived in an ashram, plenty of ego there, It's like, you got a cleaner sheet than me, right? It's a different level. You have a cleaner sheet than me. You're out of the ashram. You have more money than me, right? It's all the same. So, but what the ego mind does is the ego mind is built to fracture and split off so that the ego can survive. And so you just get a group of people that are coming together to hear a message. The ego is going to do the same thing the ego does, whether it's listening to a channeler or going to Wall Street. The ego is going to split and fracture and then project. And that's the human being. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Absolutely, it is. But those people that say, listen, I want validation. I'm not, as for example, the healer, you can see direct results that person 1 minute was not walking very well, but now is walking. It's a direct, it's in your face. Right. And people say about this work is that, well, where is that proof? Where is the? And I'm like, well, it's energetic. It's internal. It's an internal thing. So what I would say to this is, why try to prove anything? If somebody says you have to prove it to me, you're just like, okay, I understand. There's some things one cannot prove yet. And you just move on.
The ego, the other thing about the ego is ego wants proof. But I'll tell you what's so interesting, coming from a scientific family and
Yes.
being with Will Arntz, What the Bleep Do We Know, working with a lot of scientists. Very few things in science are proven. Most things are theories that they're still trying to prove. But the theory is there's so much evidence to support the theory that science progresses as if it were a truth. But it's not. Most things, you cannot definitely prove it. You can only have pointers that show it could exist. As if subatomic particles of quantum physics, there's no proof. There's just, it behaves like this in a laboratory. The mathematical equation lines up. That's as close as we'll ever get. And that's very much the way the spirit is, which I giggle because true science and spirit are so much alike. Spirit is an energetic that is like a poem. It's like a piece of music. Can you prove that Mozart's Requiem is great? No, you can't prove it. But you can enjoy it and say, yes, Mozart's Requiem touches my soul, I'm moved. But there's no way to prove its greatness. There's no way to prove what a channel says many times.
No, and it's like, sometimes it's like with the medium, it's like, little Tommy was buried with that marble in his pocket, and the parents are like, oh my God, how did you do?
Right.
But then with the channeling work, like I say to people, it's not like that. It's an internal exchange inside. It's an internal growth. It's something you get internally from hearing that message that only resonates with yourself. But it's not, I think the medium's got a great place. But with this work, it is different.
When you're bringing in the high frequency of wisdom, knowledge, sight, being able to see, being able to communicate with a source, sometimes that shows up and you can say, oh, there's proof, but most of the time it's so internal that it's not about proof. I mean, if you're looking for proof, you're in the wrong business. Like if you're going to hear channel because you want something proved, you probably should go somewhere else. That's not the place to go. But if you're going to hear something to stir your soul and uplift you and give you meaning, give you some understanding and insight, then that's where you should go, just like you would go to hear a great concert.
Thank you for sharing that, what you've just shared there about that subject, because that's really important to some people. I think when I started to channel, I just doubted it so much coming through. I was like, I'm just wanting to hear what I want to hear, and I'm just saying it. But then sometimes, or most times, when I let go and just let it come through, through whatever I wanted to say, I became less of a block, and an intelligent part of me came through.
Beautiful.
A much grander part. It's almost like, well then, what is channeling to you if you were going to sum it up in a few words?
So, channeling to me is the ability to surrender in a deep level to the unified field of love, to the essence of creation, however that shows up, and to bring that love through. Kevin, when you look at history is built on people channeling. The great prophets would meet the divine beings, and the divine beings would speak through them. The great healers, the great artists, the great, the people who have moved consciousness along, all speak about something coming through. Brahms wouldn't let anyone read his writing till 50 years after he died, and he said that he didn't write his music, that something came through him. He studied how to write note, he studied, but a presence came through, a higher presence. And that higher presence really is our true self. It's our potential that in this world of obstacles and the ego mind, it gets diminished. But this presence, which is always longing to come through and come into this world, when one opens to this, it's a great service. And we're just living in a dark ages now, because if we were in Egypt or Greece or Rome or, as Native Americans or as in Tibet, there's always been a spiritual tradition of the oracle or the channeler, someone who can see what's coming, or someone who would bring the messages of the gods. And we're in the dark ages. We're very different than all of our history, because in all of our history that was valued and greatly listened to. So we have to just be strong, smile, and have compassion to the nature that people find this different until it changes again. And so you're here doing the work. Keep doing it. It's a great service to do this. And you have to be brave. So thank you for your courage.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Yeah, there's many times where I've thought, oh, I don't know, have I thought? I don't know so much sometimes. I've just done it. I mean, even right now I'm trying to find the words of like, what am I doing this for? What am I searching for as well? And I think there's always that part of me. Do you ever question it? Do you ever question that? Is my whole life built up upon of something that's maybe not the way it is?
Well, yes. When we always have questions, and questions are very important. It's important to question and to observe. I think what it boils down to, when the information comes, the energy comes, or the thoughts based on love, or the thoughts based on goodness, or the words based on creating a better world, then you're right on. And that's the purpose. The purpose, this purpose of the soul and consciousness is to be fully present in the now, and fully in the experience of this physical world and our multidimensional selves on the other worlds. And when that lines up, that Jacob's ladder, you are doing the greatest service that you can do. You are serving yourself, you are serving humanity. And it doesn't have to have an end point. Because the ego mind and the Western mind is, there has to be a goal. There has to be an end point. There has to be an achievement. But the achievement is that you exist. And that is the most glorious thing there is. You exist.
I so agree with you. I so agree. If I say to myself, right, this is my own thinking just currently, if all this is in my imagination, because I wanted to, just for my own journey, I wanted to think this is the way it is, because I just wanted to lie to myself in that sense, right? Well, the most magical thing that comes out of it is the two teachings, the teaching of oneness and the teaching of love.
Yes.
And if those two were the only thing that came out of this that was true, because I wanted just to say that were true, perfect. I've done my job.
Right, that's
done my
it.
job.
That's it right there. That's it. And imagine if millions and millions and millions of people just did that job. What would that look like? It'd be extraordinary.
Well, yeah, that's what Neil Donald Walsh talks about in his first channeled book. Was conversations with God. Was if we came from oneness, the world would change overnight.
It would. That's completely true.
And you've said the same thing in in that text that sat over there as well. The core message and all that. But I think sometimes I'm looking at all those books over there that you've got, right? And all that information is the deeper you go, I found in this journey, it only goes in present moment, back to present moment, back to oneness, back to no thinking as well.
Right. That's where it all leads. All roads lead to the present moment.
To the present moment. Yeah, right here, right now with you.
Right here, right now.
So, have you ever thought, well, what is this nature of reality then? If I don't know what's above that hill, I don't really know what's further out that door there. I don't know if there's anything through that door. I can't see. All I've got is this perception of the reality of what's here right now with you. How do we know we're not making all this up?
But we are. We are making it all up. We're making this whole thing up. So let's just do a better job at it.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. That's a really good. That's so good. Right. We lose our childlike state sometimes as adults.
Right.
We don't play enough in our heads, and just when I was a kid, I would just be playing all the time in my head. Walking on the ground. It was on the path. I'd be thinking, oh yeah, I'm just on a spaceship right now, I'm having loads of fun. Do you know what I mean? Just playing around and whatever crazy thoughts I was thinking as a kid, right? But it's still applying that to our lives now. I'm just playing, in a sense, not
right.
being responsible. I'm not talking about that, but
the Leela, the play, the dance of life, the creating,
yeah,
and that's enough.
Yes.
That's enough, right there.
Even the idea, right, in this documentary that, we talk about how real past lives are. So when we're put under a regression or it feels true. You can never stop me from saying, well, there's nothing I could have brought out of myself that was more true than the words I said there. But who's to say that's not life giving you something to make you think it was true so that it still sends you on the path without saying, this is the ultimate truth. It allows you to find it yourself. So maybe is any of it, even past lives, true in a sense? Do you know what I mean? When you really question it deeply, it's almost like it's sprinkles of something to set us on a path of this journey of life, of this journey of seeking.
Truth is the inevitable means to an end when different forces, find a common ground. So whatever is necessary to come there, the soul and consciousness will use that. So it doesn't really even matter whether past life really happened or not. If it's a story in you that helps you,
yes.
That's the only thing that matters.
That's so amazing though, isn't it?
Yeah. And truthfully, nothing exists but right now. So why not just rewrite what happened yesterday? What I mean by that is, of course you have a consequence. But when I'm counseling and working with people, I'm not where I want to be, I want to be.
Yes.
I say, okay, so let's rewrite your history. Let's just pretend, let's use your imagination. How would you feel right now, let's say, if you were a success, or if you did have this marriage? Well, how would you feel right now? How would you behave right now? Right now, I would do this, this, and this. Well, how would you have met that person? I could have met him. The imagination's great. So then I say, okay, great. So now live like that. Well, oh my God, guess who I met? So we are the creators. It's all about how do we create? How do we use all the colors that we've been given? And
I love that.
We're not tied. We're not tethered on a ball and chain to what happened yesterday. We aren't. We can use that to transform ourselves, or we could use yesterday to keep us, buried and unhappy.
Do you think it's important to keep always positive?
No, I don't think it's important to be positive all the time, because sometimes things aren't positive. Truth is neither positive or negative. Truth just is. But finding the place of always being able to live in what is, well, that's the lifelong path of enlightenment, because that's not so easy to do here. This is the world of opposites, light and dark, good and bad. You know, could be good luck, could be bad luck. One day, oh, that's the worst thing that happened. A year later, you go, oh my gosh, that was the best thing that happened to me. So we don't know in the great mystery of life what really anything means.
No.
But as far as positive, I have a different word than positive. I feel it's very important to remain open and receptive to learning and to change. And that's different than just saying, oh, I'm going to be positive. Because many times we can be positive and our house is being gutted underneath because we're not looking at reality. So the fire came. The fire came here to Montecito. The fire department chief was ready to lose the entire town, Santa Barbara, which would have been huge. The fire came to my personal doorstep, right out back there, about 30 feet away, was a 280,000 acre fire. That's pretty intense energy. So this is a perfect example of, okay, thinking positive. So let's look at this. Let's find the truth of this. Reality was the fire's coming. You look at a map, here's our house, here's the fire, it's coming this way. I could say, I'm going to just think positive, it's not going to come to me, even though it's coming. So being positive, we have to be careful. Positive doesn't turn into the psychological state called denial. Oh, I just got diagnosed with cancer, but I'm going to feel positive about it. That can very easily become denial. And so you don't do business. See, doing business is grounded.
Taking responsibility, moving forward
Moving
with what
forward.
you've got to do.
So
Yeah.
let's say the fire. Here's the map, there's a fire. The wind is blowing northeast. Okay, that fire, if it moves at this rate of speed, that means this fire will be here in 2.5 days. That's reality based. Okay, I'm going to have faith. I have faith that God is going to see that everything is done right for me to be protected. And I'm going to pray that our home is protected. And I have faith that God will do the right thing. I have faith. And at the same time, I'm going to move everything out of the house that I have time to move, that I don't want to lose.
Right.
But I have faith. And faith is more powerful than feeling positive. Because faith takes thinking positive, but being in touch with what reality is. So you see what I'm saying? Because the reason I'm focusing on this is because that's a big word today, think positive.
Yes.
Positive affirmations, they're all great. But what I want to say is, let's go to a deeper place where this really works. And that is the faith.
The faith and the action.
And the action based on the laws of this illusion. The laws of this illusion are, if you step in front of a car, you'll probably get run over. In the other realms, you can step in front of a car and it goes right through you. So it's very important to be humble, and to have humility to the laws of the physical world. I respect this. I respect this game board here and what the rules are.
You know, even from that perspective, I've even, and we're going to get back to the fire in just a second, I've even changed my viewpoint on the law of attraction, really. You know, I don't know I don't feel the same way I did about it as before. I think it becomes an obsession a little bit, or there's something maybe there's something I'm seeing different about the law of attraction, where maybe it's, if it's in your highest good, then it will come to you. You can't always pull that to you which you want, unless there's maybe love and the highest calling involved as well.
So the law of attraction came in as a seed of a greater knowledge. So the seed of the knowledge is here. It's time to go to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. It's time to fully understand what that seed means. All truth is a meeting, as I said, of opposites into one place. All truth is a paradox. Yes, there is a law of attraction, and no, there's not a law of attraction. There's a law of creation. Yes, there is a way to create your reality, and no, you can't create your reality because you're a member of an 8 billion member family and they're all creating their realities. So, whose reality is going to win, right? The next level of what we need to look at with the law of attraction is creation. So the law of creation is really where we're going. And that's what we need to now step up to the next step on the ladder, as they say, on Jacob's ladder. How do I create? I'm not creating by myself, am I? I'm one cell in a brain of 10 trillion cells, and the brain belongs to God. So what's my purpose? Am I going to be a cell that helps the whole, helps the brain, the mind of God function and be healthy? Or am I going to be a cell that creates a cancer tumor? What am I going to do? Where's my place? So it is about now creating. And in creating, one must adopt a few simple rules of this reality. One is humility, the ability to be humble to the majesty of all creation that we're like that little tiny dot of. One is to speak kindly, to care for others, to be compassionate, to love when you don't want to love, to understand what you don't understand. And when this happens, we step into the true power of what one attracts, and that is we step into wisdom. Because wisdom is an energy, is a consciousness that is the closest to the mind of God. Because wisdom knows moment to moment, what the truth is. The law of attraction was hijacked by the ego mind. Again, we come back to the ego. Because the ego says, I'm not happy unless I have this, this, and this, and this, and this. So I'm going to take that key, and I just want to use it to, because I want this, and I think I need this, and my neighbor has it. If they have it, why shouldn't I have it? So the power of the law of attraction has lost its power. It's been used up because it's not connected to the source. So we need to step again into another strata of this and say, God, what do you want? And then that will be attracted to you. What do you want? What is it? How do you want to live? What do you and I together need to experience?
Because you are God and it is you.
Yes.
You're God having a human experience?
Yes, you're God having a human experience. And in the truth of it is the paradox. In one pocket, we have a little note to ourselves. I'm God, I'm almighty, I'm all great. In the next pocket, we have another little note that says, I'm a piece of dust. I'm the most smallest infinitesimal thing in this grand universe. And when we come together and we're in that paradox, that's where we are truth. And then we move into wisdom. And then we're watching, we're observing, and this came to me, why did it come to me? What's the lesson? What's the meaning of this in my life right now? It kind of doesn't even matter if you attracted it or God attracted it. It's why is it here? What can I learn? And how can I use this to bring kindness and goodness back into the world? It's time now for us to take our ego, say, I love you. I want you to go sit over in the corner and be the audience. You've been the players on the stage, and the stage is burning, falling down, the rafters are crashing into the orchestra pit. Ego, it's time for you to be in the audience, and my true self now is going to be on the stage, and I'm going to co-write the play that we're meant to write, the story of humanity.
That's beautiful. And just to get into that space when you ask God what he, she wants, you can still live in purpose and say, well, I'd like to experience this. I'd like to experience this thing, whatever it is that you want to attract to you. But are you saying it from a perspective of, but what do you want? Are you adding those words as well?
Right, like okay, let's do a really concrete example. I'm not going to start with cars. It's okay to have a goal. Again, that's a goal. I want a car. So we have to differentiate between the two. I have a goal. I want a house. Okay, so I'm going to work. I'm going to save my money. This is different.
Do you think it's different?
Let's say. Well,
it is, isn't it? In one sense, it feels different, doesn't it? I've worked hard for that car. I've now got the car of my dreams.
Right.
Because
you attracted it to you because you worked and you saved the money to get the car.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We're talking about attracting something where you don't really know how it's going to happen, but you just know it's going to happen. You don't know how it's not working. This documentary, then, let's use that as an example. I didn't know how I was going to get the money for it. I just trusted that I just kept moving forward as though I was going to get it. I didn't do anything.
Great. Yeah, and that's fabulous. And you could say that's positive thinking, but it's not as powerful as having faith and trust. What I see is you had faith and trust.
Yes.
Because positive is good, but it's about 2 inches thick. It's easy to wash that away. Faith and trust goes very, very, very deep into the matrix of this reality, when this reality is a matrix of energies. It's like a cloth. So faith and trust goes deep into this cloth. And that's what you have. And that's what we need, is faith and trust. And it's okay to have faith and trust. And you started with the law of attraction. What I would say to you is, well, Kevin, okay, why don't we take this idea of the law of attraction, why don't we bump it up? How do you feel about embodying the law of creation? Maybe there's power in there you didn't know you had to create what you're here to create. And you create what? I think you create it. So, see what I'm saying?
Yes, you do.
And
yeah.
the thing about creating is it is a more of a powerful stance than attract, because creation means you are co-creating with the creator, the all that is, to create your piece of the movie, your scenes, what you desire to do, your soul's purpose. And in order to create, it takes us power. And when your power is infused with the light of God that creates everything, that's a lot of power. And you don't necessarily want to attract things to you that would be an obstacle to that. Because when you are saying, I'm going to attract to me, you sometimes can start to attract things that you don't want unless you're very, very specific. And that's all fine and good. All I'm saying is, why don't we try this on? This is what the Ascended Masters have always told me. You are a creator of consciousness. Now create. What are you going to create? What are you here to create with the light together?
And your purpose. What's your drive?
Yeah, what's your drive? What's your passion?
Yeah.
What's your drive? What's your purpose? And your purpose and someone else's may both be necessary, and they may meet on the road, and there may be a conflict. But that's okay. There may be a friction. So when there's the friction, then what's the purpose of the friction, and how can that friction create something else, maybe even greater, right?
Absolutely.
And with that consciousness, you see, we can come together with friction and not go into war or go into, oh, that person's wrong, that they're bad, I only follow that person, they're good. But instead, oh, here's two opposites. How can we work with these two opposites to create something else? We don't even know what that new thing will look like. Does that make sense?
Absolutely it does. And thank you so much for that analogy. And just, this is the final question now, and we're going to slice this back into the fire. But when you channeled the fire, which is fascinating, right, that you did, when you channeled the fire then, what did the fire say to you?
So I'll go, because when the beings speak to me, it's all poetic. It comes out of poetry. So I'm gonna listen back to her now that she's gone to sleep. So the fire had said to me, I am the element of fire. I am creation. I am the daughter of the Godhead to bring light, warmth, healing. I am the flame of the great central sun, and I am wholly misunderstood. I am asking for humanity to be more careful, to be more considerate, to be more loving and kind with the planet and with your developments in your technologies, so that I can exist in my pure form. Because the elements now, we have been, shall we say, enslaved and taken by the lost nature of humanity, and therefore, I, fire, who has no desire to harm, am now in a place that I don't want to be. And I'm asking you, human, to honor me, to understand me, and to create your sacred rituals, your ceremonies, so that I am contained, and to be very mindful of the laws of creation here with fire. I am the sacred fire who purifies karma, who purifies the Maya into the light. Work with me so that I can be in balance and harmony again, and we can live side by side, and I can warm you at night and cook your food for you.
Well, I think we'll just thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a re-remembrance of my own truth.
Oh, well, that is the greatest compliment you could ever give me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Elohim Adonai, Adonai Elohim. We are the creators, the hands, the fingers, the wind, the fire, the waters of the first light, the light of the beginning. And now we come soaring into your reality to reestablish the grace of humanity, the perfection of Adonai Elohim, the one and the many, the feminine and the masculine, reunited. For in this age of surprise comes the age of the beloved, the great love between the Creator and the children of the Creator, between the Creator and the Creator, as divine Father, divine Mother, the divine lovers of all that is. This great light is here now and is coming in even a greater way. It is very simple. It is finding the blessing in your heart where you know you are safe and you are one in the arms of the Creator. Our only message is that you are a blessing. You are a blessing to everyone who meets you and every person and thing you have ever touched. You are pure love, and anything else that you've done or experienced has simply been a test, has simply been a way to learn. Because the only thing you have left is love. And so we wish to share a blessing of love from the Elohim, the creators. See there now in your heart a rose, a beautiful white rose. Look into this rose, close your eyes, begin to breathe gently. For there in the rose is a golden nugget, a flame. Now go to this golden flame. Sit yourself in the center of your heart in the golden flame of creation. And allow this flame now to fill your entire body until you are wrapped in a warm blanket of rose gold, serenity, peace. And this blanket around you becomes warmer and warmer, and you realize you are in a cocoon of light and love. And in this cocoon of light and love, you become aware that there above your head is an orb of light. And we, the Elohim, now open the sacred seals to this light of miracle, this light of wonderment. Allow your crown chakra to open as this great light pours over you. as rings of light descend, great discs of light, washing your mind and your brain of the thoughts you do not need, washing your heart of the sorrows you do not need to carry anymore, washing your belly from the fear and anxiety that's not yours, washing down to your feet, washing your feet in these great rings of light, that you know that from you comes all love, all goodness, the power to create. Now see yourself in our temple, for we are right here, right now. We aren't far away. There's nowhere to go. There's only to be right here, because you are in our temple of light. Around you, we stand. The angels, ascended masters, creators, sending into you our blessing of health and healing, our blessing of joy and abundance, our blessing of all the goodness and benevolence of creation. And right now, right here in this time, you are free. You are free of the Maya. You are free to be who you are, the great butterfly, birthing from the chrysalis of your time. See this, the wings that belong to you, and know that we are the wind beneath your wings, and that you will fly so great and so beautifully together with us as we greet the 21st century, the great age of light and love. We love you. Thank you.